Hello everyone. Welcome to an epic rerun of Marco TV's Fintech Live Games Gone Pinball Deep Dive with George Bowman, the legendary George Bowman. This is one of my favorite episodes we ever did. We're going to hang out, watch some cool stuff, dive into the lore behind James Bond Pinball, why Stern picked it up as a license. This is all prep to California Extreme coming in a few weekends. On August 19th to the 20th, we're going to have James Bond Pinball at our booth, and also going to be doing a MarcoTV live stream at California Extreme with associate game developer Mike Vinikour, who worked on the code. He's going to show us the new code, talk all about the updates, how far 007 Pinball has come, and why this is the game to play right now, besides Venom. So we're going to do that Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to be live streaming here on Facebook and YouTube for Marco, and we are partnering with DRI 374, Michael Matson out of the Bay Area. So we'll be streaming it on his Twitch channel too. Cross streaming. I hope y'all will enjoy that. Let's watch some cool 007 stuff. We'll let a few more folks jump in, and then I'll start the show. I want to play this awesome video that George posted on his Facebook, showing off these old James Bond cars. This is this cool episode thing. It's fantastic. Hello, Mr. J. Crane and Spunky. Welcome, welcome. This is going to be a rerun. But before that, we're going to watch this really cool video of George going through some old James Bond memorabilia and some car stuff. Hookah Palooka, more reruns. We are, Kyle and I are planning on doing a Pintech Live together soon. Right now we're prepping for California Extreme, which we will both be attending on August 19th to the 20th. And then after that, we're going to do some cool Venom stuff with Brian Eddy and Dwight Sullivan, and get back to some cool, good old-fashioned repair videos together. Spunky, yeah, I do need to do a walkthrough of my arcade. I have to finish decorating it. We are going to also be at Soda City Comic-Con, Hookah Palooka. We're going to be there. We're bringing the 10 Venoms that we brought to Southern Fried. Those will be at Soda City. It's the exact same weekend, so our team, our entire company is split in half to be able to do both California Extreme and Soda City Comic-Con on the same weekend. Oh, yeah, that's right. Hey, Casey. Good to see you. Come to Soda City. If you want to help out and volunteer, send me a message. I'll hook you up with Kim. We'll get you a badge. Honorary Team Marco badge. Yes. What was that white powder? Nobody knows still. Nobody knows. Alright, we're gonna watch this George Bond cars video real quick, and then we'll start the actual rerun. Well, just let me know if you can make it. If not, no sweat. Alright, let me get this. This is so cool, y'all. Like, watch this.
Hey everybody, it's George Gomez at the Ian Fleming Foundation. These folks restore and maintain memorabilia, vehicles, and objects from all the Bond films. And I am here with the Mustang from Diamonds Are Forever, 71 Mach 1. So this particular car has seen better days, and this is going to be restored by Ford Motor Company for the Ian Fleming Foundation. I am sitting in Zhao's Jaguar from Die Another Day. This thing ran on the ice, and it had the Gatling gun behind me in addition to an array of missiles up in the front grille. If you can't be James Bond, maybe you can be a villain. This is a tow sled from Thunderball. This is what the Spectre divers used in the fight. I was there on the first day when Thunderball came out, standing in line at the theater. All right, everybody, you'll recognize this helicopter as the helicopter that was in From Russia with Love, complete with hand grenades. This just absolutely caught my eye because I'm an industrial designer. This is how I express my ideas. This is an original Ken Adams sketch of the Bathosub, which is in the game and in Diamonds Are Forever. I love all of the detail sketches that illustrate his thought process of how this thing would be built, because that's how it works. Here we are with the restoration in progress of Goldfinger's jet. All right, Bond wakes up after being hit with a tranquilizer dart in flight somewhere over the Midwestern United States on his way to Goldfinger's horse farm. These are Goldfinger's hands on his way out of the jet, on his way, as Bond put it, to play his golden harp. What you're looking at is the 1965 issue James Bond attaché case, which I asked for Christmas in 1965, and I got. This attaché case was designed at Marvin Glass & Associates. So in the 80s, I'm working at Marvin Glass & Associates, and one of the model makers in the studio says, hey, you ought to go up to the archive and look at X toy that might inform the thing that you're working on. Once I got up into the archive, there were shelves, and every shelf was separated by the year, and whenever the company invented a toy, they would get real samples of the toy, and they would be stocked in that year as reference. So I get to 1965, and there it is, a stack of James Bond attaché cases, brand new in the box. And so when I told that story, these folks at the Ian Fleming Foundation, they said, oh, we've got a gift for you. These are now mine. And of course, they're gonna go on the wall next to my James Bond 007 pinball machine.
Was that not the most amazing walkthrough video of the Fleming organization? Sorry, I had my. That was so cool. So absolutely cool. The Fleming Foundation, keeping James Bond history alive. But all right, y'all, we're gonna go to the actual actual episode now. Let's see here. Let's fast forward this.
No.
Is in the studio. Thank you, Kyle. I'm the worst. I love that music. All right, let's go. Yeah. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of PinTech Live. As you can see, we have Mr. Gomez in the studio, and we're celebrating everything James Bond 007 Pinball and the huge game launch for it. George, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on. You know, I always love to talk to you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And before we get dive deep into this game, we'll do a quick audio check. So if y'all can hear us, give us a thumbs up in the chat. And then Kyle, can you say a few words so we can check you out too?
Yes, a few words. No, thank you, George. We appreciate you making time out of your day. It always blows my mind that you agree to do these things with us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been a busy day. LEs are on the line, and so I got here at 6 this morning, and I've been looking at games all day. So I took I'm taking a break while I'm talking to you guys. I got somebody else out there helping me. Elliot Eisman, one of the mechanical engineers, is checking games for me.
Oh, fantastic!
So,
awesome.
Well,
I think it's so cool that you, as a designer, stay on the line and make sure the games are.
Yeah, so all of the designers, it's the thing we do. It doesn't matter whether it's pros, premiums, LEs, whatever it is. When the games first hit the line, clearly the manufacturing side of the world, QAs, all the games, they've gone through probably, they've gone through playfield tests, they've gone through final test, and not to mention in some different kinds of assemblies get specific sub-assembly tests. But and then the designer signs off. And when the designer gets confidence that all the games are coming off well, then he basically, tells production that they can QA them, and or they can basically put them in a box without the designer looking at them.
So your day now of inspecting the limited edition games as they're on the line, you being a little more hands-on with the LEs, or what's that look like?
No more so than I am with the pros. I mean, I put the same. It's like I have a routine, and honestly, I don't look at, like, I trust them to do a lot of the. There's thousands of parts in a pinball machine, right? So I check that, like, for example, on the pros, I make sure that, the DB5 UC is working correctly. I make sure that the flippers are set the way I want them. I make sure that the rocket is sensing hits and things like that. On the LE, it's a little bit more complex. I make sure that the jetpack guy is picking up the ball. I still check the DB5 UC, and I check the multi-ball gantry lock. And I check the rocket, but like, for example, I have a routine, right? I approach the game and I go, I touch everything, make sure everything's tight and everything looks right, and then I do this little routine. I check those things that are important to me, that make sure that they're 100% working when they go in the box, and then every so many games, I literally stop and I actually play one. Nice. And I make the shots, and I see what's going on, and then, but I can't play 100% of the games, I can spot check them, which is the other thing. It's like, even after you sign off that the factory is good to check them and box them, I still spot check games. We all do. I'll see designers out there or engineers out there from time to time. You're coming back from lunch, there's games on the line. Hey, let's go see what this is all about. And you just go walk up to a game cold and is it right? So we're not perfect. That there's, we get lots of things wrong, but we try, and we're going to get better.
I think
for sure, that's awesome.
I think that's really neat. I can't imagine many other industries or things that are designed and then manufactured where the people that do the design work actually come out and spend time with things being built. That's pretty special.
Well, I think the single biggest difference is, and this is something people don't really understand it, and that is when you have a very complex product like a car, the amount, or doesn't matter what it is, any consumer product, the more complex it is, the longer the validation and development cycle is. So in our case, you're talking about a 14 to 16 month development cycle, and we don't have the kinds of pilot runs that, we can't afford the kinds of pilot runs that for example, a car company can afford, right? So a car company will pilot a bunch of stuff at different stages to get to, but they also have a lot of other issues, right? Like life safety issues and stuff, things like that, which are substantially less impactful in a pinball machine, right? Of course, we do FCC and UL testing and all that kind of stuff, yeah. But it's a lot different than, you got to make sure the brakes work, right?
Yeah.
So the issue is, how do we get better given the limited amount of time that we have to work on the pinball machine and to manufacture it. And that's a lot of the conversations that we've been having, because I really want quality to improve, and sometimes quality it's not about how we built it. It a lot of times it's like what happens to it after it leaves here. How does it transport? What what causes things to go wrong. Like, the playfield warp issue in the winter is very, it's very prevalent because of the temperature changes that games are going through as they travel to wherever it is that they're going across different climates, different environments, on the water, in an airplane, to super hot climate, to a really cold climate, through both. So those things are much harder to deal with. But yeah, I mean, I think that we have to do more to design quality into the game so that there's less, a lot of the things that we talk about today in the mechanical engineering group is how do we make this thing foolproof? And we're a long way from there, but how do we make it so that the lights in my room just went out again because I haven't apparently I'm not moving
your arms
enough.
more.
You gotta use more hand motions.
Hang on a second.
No, that's fine. Oh, that's great. Look, this is the these are the answers This is not what I was expecting to talk about in the first 10 minutes of this. This is
yeah. No, I mean, I think we're as concerned about quality as the community is, and I've said this many times, right? We are our own customers, right? I buy Strum Pinball games. Most of the guys in development buy Strum Pinball games.
Yeah.
And so we are the customer. So when, the very first thing I do when I get a game home is I go through it and I say, okay, so what, what's wrong, what's right? And the single biggest challenge we face is that when the business was strictly a commercial business, an operator and a distributor were pretty savvy about how to operate pinball machines, how to handle them, set them up, fix them, set them up, and so in the new world where a lot of games are going into, you have a product that's essentially designed as a commercial product going into a consumer environment. And that consumer may not be particularly savvy relative to the technology of pinball. And so that poses the greatest challenge. So, we talk about things like, can you believe the guy's got to take the glass off in order to put the balls in a game? Why don't we think into this problem and try to, because that consumer experience, that sort of take it out of the box and start, set it up and start playing it, is really important. And every consumer product has some element of attention paid to that experience. And so, we're thinking a lot about how to make it so that experience is a better, easier thing, considering that we still have the core of a commercial product going into a consumer environment.
Absolutely. I think that's something I try to talk to people about from my point, is reminding people that these are commercial pieces of equipment in some of the shortfalls that happen with especially service, right? Finding people to service your game, finding someone to help you with these issues. It's difficult because, again, the commercial distributorships, Bob's music company had Bob, and Bob would fix the games. And Bob's retired now, and who fixes the games? So especially when they're not out on the street as more prevalent as they were maybe 20 years ago. Now, I don't think that's true anymore. I can almost say I'd be really curious to see the numbers of games in commercial locations in 2022 versus, I don't know, maybe 1995, and see how far off we are. But
so commercial, clearly commercial locations took a hit during the pandemic, but they're coming back with a vengeance, right? Yep. We have a ton of brewery relationships right now. And the sales guys have been really good at developing. We have the barcade scene. We have a lot of commercial locations coming back. And but I think the single biggest difference between the commercial product and a consumer product is the fit and finish expectations.
Yep.
So you have a set, you have a series of materials that are perfectly adequate for a commercial environment, meaning that, a guy operating a pinball machine is just not going to be that concerned with some of the aesthetic things that people are,
Small danger, a small scratch.
reach out to us. Yeah. So that's a challenge, right? It's like, so how do we transition into that world and still maintain the costs where they need to be? Because inherently costs have gone up because of the raw material shortages in the world, right? We're not the only ones dealing with it. Everybody's dealing with it. So our costs have gone up because we're paying more for everything. But in addition to that, you have, if the expectation is the fit and finish of the game has to be, equivalent to, an Apple product when it comes out of the box, then the price of the game is going to go up substantially.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fascinating. I guess I was going to save this question for maybe later after we had talked about James Bond, but it maybe kind of segues through. The internet has saw what Elk Grove Village put out, that you guys are moving facilities and staying in Elk Grove Village. Mm-hmm. What does that mean for manufacturing? Quality, perhaps? Of course, it seems like your throughput's going to be higher, but what about, maybe speaking on what you were just speaking about, does that correlate at all?
Right. So it's a much larger facility, and it's a much more modern facility than the one that we're in. And in addition to that, we're separating out. We're going to have another facility yet so all of the woodwork stuff and anything related to wood or finishing wood is going to be in its own separate building, separate from the one that you guys have seen mentioned in Elk Grove Village in the press. I mean, it's still here in Elk Grove Village, but it's a smaller facility to deal with the woodworks. And but the big facility is, it's an opportunity to take a look at a lot of your processes and, how we lay out assembly lines and to upgrade some of the equipment in the lines, upgrade tools, upgrade, fixturing and just a lot of things that we're a lot of times we have to, just to keep things flowing. We don't have the luxury to stop, take a step back and say, how do we improve this process, right? So now you're going to a new facility, it's an opportunity to do that. So we're looking at a lot of different things to try to make the product better, right? But it's a much cooler space. The development studio is going to be nicer and bigger, and I mean it's just a lot of the Whitewood lab is going to get substantially bigger, and
awesome.
The model shop is getting a much nicer space. The model shop has grown a tremendous amount in the time that that we've been in this building, and those guys they've acquired so much equipment that they can't put another machine in their shop right now.
I know it's very packed. Well, what about Dorothy? Is Dorothy going to get a bigger office?
Everybody should have nicer and much better space than. And it's because we're growing and it's good. I mean, it's good for I think it's good for everybody.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, look at that. We got some unprompted answers that I think people like to hear from George, but I think we need to focus for just a little bit on this. This is fantastic.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. You guys have seen the disclaimer on the screen. It says, hey, still pending license or approval. Most of the code that's not there is because the licensing process on this game is primarily difficult because of the sheer amount of licensed video in the games.
Okay.
And there's a lot. And so and the way that we show it to the licensor is we literally play the game and show and capture. We do video captures of the game as it's played with the appropriate feedback stuff, sound effects, speech calls, video simultaneously. So he's seeing it, he's seeing it in context, because it's really hard to approve video for a pinball machine without seeing it in context. Right, because you don't know,
yeah.
why is he showing me this? What doesn't make any sense, right? The way the cuts and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, bear with us. It's not, I mean, look, this game is dear to my heart. I promise you that we will deliver on the promise. I mean, it's just it's taking us some amount of time. There's a lot of stuff. So.
I think that what people can walk away with, though, and I think the consensus that I've tried to keep my finger on the pulse of is the people that got to play it at Expo, the people that got to play it at the Houston show and the show in Nashville, they all say it's got fantastic bones. And a lot of people are, again, they're trusting and waiting and ready for the rest of the software to follow along with it. It's a great shooting game.
Look, I mean, every game we've done, I think people stopped asking us where's the code because everybody figured out that we always make good on it. Yep. And so, it's like we even games that we have to, in some cases, games that we have to put down for a little while, we come back to and improve. So we'll get it there.
Yeah.
And you're not going to wait a long time to see it move, to see it move. But yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine Lonnie and Mike and the rest of their team are working very hard right now, coming up.
They are. They absolutely are. Yep.
Yeah. Can we do like a quick shout out of the main like leads on your team?
Yeah. So Lonnie is the lead developer. Mike Vinikour is an associate designer working with Lonnie on a lot of the rules and stuff. Guys like Brett Rubin, Dean Grover, Mike Kizavat, Wei-Sin Chang, all contributing to software on the game. In addition to that, Chuck Ernst and all of his AV team, all those guys have done an amazing job.
Fantastic.
So many assets.
And so it's and then Kevin O'Connor basically took the work of Robert McGinnis and Frank McCarthy, mostly Frank McCarthy, and adapted it for pinball. Right. So it was a huge task because some of the imagery was literally movie poster stuff that had been scanned into the licensor's archive, and it might have been appropriate at a smaller scale, but now you're talking about taking this image and making it enormous, the size of a pinball machine, and it's not, it wasn't pretty when some of that stuff got enlarged. So Kevin had to do a tremendous amount of touch-up and refinement. Some of the imagery, even at the scale of stuff on the playfield, the stuff wasn't designed to the sensibilities of 2023. So meaning that we are very spoiled in we're used to certain fidelity in the stuff we look at, and so I think I can't say it enough. I mean, Kevin, not only did he have to iterate a tremendous amount to get to where we got, but he had to spend a lot of time refining and just trying to nail compositions and so yeah. But I'm very happy with the way it all came out. There's a whole, Kyle, you've been mentioning that you really liked the Dr. No package.
Yes.
I didn't know how people were going to react to the Dr. No package. I knew that, I was adamant that the Thunderball package, Thunderball is one of my favorite films, and that illustration from Frank McCarthy on the side of the Thunderball package and the other one on the back glass, the jetpack, I just knew that was the Thunderball package from the get-go. And You Only Live Twice was also an interesting one because the painting on the back glass is almost almost naturally the form factor of a Stern Pinball back glass. So, and there was a lot of controversy with the licensor about the fact that Bond, the Bond is walking sideways on the rim of the volcano. But eventually, we got it through, and And so the Dr. No package was a question mark for me, because I love that art in the context of the posters, but I was a little concerned about, what is this on the, how will it be received in the context of a pinball machine? It turns out my fears, from what I can tell, my fears were
it's great.
Were basically not an issue.
It's neat. I mean,
wait, so what is your favorite art package then, George, out of the three?
Mine by far the Thunderball package.
It's fantastic.
So I think my two favorite films are Goldfinger and Thunderball from that, from the Connery films. And I know those films really well. I know all of the Sean Connery films really well. I know a lot less about, the Roger Moores, the Daniel Craigs, the Timothy Daltons. So all of those, it was like I've seen them sporadically. I don't think I've seen all the Moores. I don't think I've seen all of the, I have seen all the Craigs, but I haven't seen some of the other guys. I haven't seen all of the, all the films, right? So
as someone who doesn't wear anything other than black, I think the one thing that I like the most about this is just how bright it is. It really pops. And it's not, I mean, there's, we only have 1 or 2 Stern games in here right now, and I do like the increase, the poppiness of a lot of the color palettes. I'm looking at a Mandalorian over there, and it's so orange, but I mean, this is yellow and red, but it still integrates just the fantastic movie poster art on one side.
The blue's so nice too.
It's I don't know, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I
the
really
color
like
palette's great.
So definitely. I don't know. It's I think I should like things that are a little darker, but I really love the way that this stands out.
I think you have to take it into you have to take into account that it's the it's that genre, right? It's that age, it's that time, and so it's I think if you look at it in the context of the time, it's very appropriate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, I will look. I fall in line with you there for sure. It's fantastic. I can't stop looking at it. I do love, and then the playfield artwork too. I think this is one thing. When the first time I saw it in just a photo in the press release package, to me it looked like, oh man, that looks kind of cluttered. What's going on there? But the first time I saw it at Pinball Expo, it's just fantastic. Anyone who has any sort of trepidations about anything, I think once you see it in person, and a lot of your local locations are getting them as we speak, go out there and play them.
Look out for those launch parties. They're starting to pop up everywhere.
Good job to the fulfillment team and then everyone else at Stern that's really prioritizing locations and getting people out to go and support their local locations and pinball communities. It's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of, in the past, the past 3 weeks, I've seen, there are a lot of pros on location, which is great. And so LEs are on the line now, and, we'll pound through those, and we'll be into the premiums.
Good. Okay, I've seen a few people in the chat that I can see here talking about how, I'm waiting for my LE, and it's coming. They are literally, George is literally stopped working on them right now to talk with us.
I might have looked at your game today.
Yeah. He might have put up a big grand champion, and now you have to take it down.
So they factory reset those things before they go in the box. But
well, you shouldn't factory reset that one.
That would be cool if you left your score.
Yeah, so but you never know. I might have signed your game in a funny place.
Oh,
never know.
Little Easter eggs. That's awesome. One of the questions we got from the chat was, which is a great question, what do you believe your greatest challenge was for you and your team on this project?
Our greatest challenge has been, it's an amazing brand with 60 years of stuff. And even when you're focused on the first 6 Connery films, the first 6 films, and those, you got to remember those films basically defined a genre, right? Like the entire spy thing was defined by those films. And not only for other things, including the spoofs and everything else, but also for the next 50 years of James Bond. So I think the biggest challenge that we faced was, how do we do this justice? How do we get enough of each of the films? I clearly could not dedicate key elements to the, throughout the entire playfield. So I had to pick and choose, so it's like, okay, so I got the Dragon Tank from Dr. No, and we're going to theme the pop bumpers to Dr. No. I'm going to do the jetpack because I think the jetpack's kind of cool. I had this idea for, at one point I had the underwater scene was like the whole center of the playfield, and there wasn't enough there to make it significant. And so I said, I'll just go back and do what I did on Monster Bash with the creature. It's just a cool effect, but I'm going to do some like really amazing sculpts that people are going to want to own, and we'll play some great games with lights and stuff like that. The rocket, I knew I had to have like the epic end of the film fight, and I wanted that thing, I wanted the Auga sirens going off, and I wanted, ninjas rappelling down and all hell breaking loose and, blowing stuff up and all of that. I wanted to capture that, the Bond music picking up and the pace of the game. I wanted to capture that. And so I thought, one of my favorite Bond fights is actually the underwater fight in Thunderball, but I just didn't know how to do it. I mean, I was like, wow, how do I get this across? And so you got the six villains, 6 henchmen, 6 Bond women, and you have bits and pieces from all of the things. Had to do something with the DB5, right? I mean, it's how do you do a James Bond game without the DB5? Just like how do you do a James Bond game without the John Barry James Bond theme? You have to have that. So, yes, I mean, the biggest challenge was this is a lot of amazing stuff. How do you distill it down to the essence of a pinball machine, and go from there?
While
and
still
that's
doing
really
it
been
justice,
the biggest
right?
challenge.
That's what I was going to ask. Something similar. Was this an extraordinarily daunting IP, a daunting brand to work with?
It's a daunting brand because it's so incredibly successvel. So they know a thing or two about James Bond. So it's kind of like, I think that they have very high expectations. Very high standards about what James Bond is, what it's not, and so we need and a pinball machine is a new medium to the brand, and it's probably, to tell you the truth, it's probably the most complex medium that has ever interpreted the brand, because you have a video component, an audio component. A player can do anything at any time. You have the challenge of the art, the challenge of 3-dimensional toys that transform and do things, and so it was as daunting. I think it was as daunting and as much of a challenge for them to cope with the barrage of stuff that we were. We're showing up and going, and then the ball's going to fly out of the top of the DB5, and you're going to be able to blow up the rocket in the rocket base, and you got guys underwater, and you got a Dragon Tank, and it's a pinball machine, and a player can do anything at any time, and so just imagine that, right? And you go, whoa, wait.
So, I mean, with all of that in mind, then, I mean, if we take a step back, like 3 or 4 steps in the process, then how do you cope with, I'm going to do something that has such a massive cultural impact? I mean, you've worked with IPs that have massive cultural ties to, I mean, Lord of the Rings, the whole Corvette brand, all of the Universal monsters, but this is different, right? How did you wrap your mind around?
The single biggest difference about this to me was that it was a brand that was resonant to me. It played a role in my, you know, in my, you know, my interest in fiction and in just sort of like my entertainment when I first got exposed to those films as a little kid. It was impactful to me. So, I mean, my pressure on myself was, I can't let this down. This is too important to me. This is, you know, this is an iconic brand. It's part of my, you know, my entertainment experience in my life. And I can't fail. I have to make this amazing because it's significant to me. So, I mean, that was, you know, my personal single biggest challenge, right? It was just sort of like, how do I make a James Bond game that I'm proud of, that does all the things I want it to do, and is so I think it's more, it was, with me, it was more about that than that, you know, James Bond is bigger than, you know, that IP or this IP or
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
It's the
you
personal
said
pressure.
when we did our Insider Connected special that was it one of the James Bond's movie it was your first movie experience or something as a young kid, or?
Yeah, I mean, so I think I've told the story a couple of times, but basically, when I was 10 years old, I had an aunt.
Love this story.
My mom's slightly older sister, and she was like the hip aunt, you know, and so she called me up one day and she said, I saw this movie and it's amazing. You got to see it. I'm going to take you and a friend on Saturday. I'm going to take you. So, you know, she took us to a big marquee theater in Chicago that, you know, it's like back in those days, you know, it's 1965. I'm 10 years old. That, you know, it had all the lights on the marquee and the whole theater was decked out in movie stuff. And it was, and that movie was Goldfinger. And, you know, she dropped us off. I'd never seen anything like that. So it was, and, you know, few people had. So you talk about the impact of Star Wars. Well, you know, roll the tape back to 1965. This was like that. It was like everybody was talking about it. Everybody was, you know, it was like it was in, you know, being talked about in every way, media, talk shows, etc. And media was different in 1965 than it is in 2023. But it was impactful that way. And we came out, you know, that year for Christmas. I asked for the attaché case. You know, I got that. I got, you know, like the guys at school had the little DB5, the Core G DB5 with the ejecting, you know, with the ejection seat and a little molded. I think they were red, if I remember correctly. The little dude was molded red, and he, you know, launch out of the car, and all the weapons and things came. You know, the car sort of transformed to show all the stuff. So cool. It was, you know, I mean, it was a cultural phenomenon, and it was a cultural phenomenon that played a role in my life. So
where did you start then? With all of that behind you, with all that pressure on your shoulders, like self-made and from cultural pressures,
yeah. Well,
where did you start with the game?
So it's no secret that when we got the license, I wasn't scheduled to be the designer of the game. I, you know, my real job is to basically run product development for Stern Pinball. As the chief creative officer, there's no room in your life for design a pinball machine, you know. So Mr. Ritchie was assigned to the game. I thought it was a good fit for him because he likes action titles, etc. And they started down that road. Then when he left the company, he had left us a Whitewood. The Whitewood, to me, you know, I couldn't finish it. I was like, okay, I just couldn't wrap my head around finishing somebody else's stuff. And to tell you the truth, I wasn't that enamored with it. I was like, okay, I don't like what I see here, so I'm not, you know, so I decided not to use it and start over. It was really hard because I had a short period of time. the team was kind of re-energized, another bite at the apple, even though I threw a bunch of their stuff out. So it's like, okay, I'm starting over. Here's what we're doing. And for a long time, I went around and around. I didn't know what was going to be what. But the clock was ticking, and so I didn't have a lot of time to be wrong. So I did a lot of things. I think I showed you guys. I sent you guys the movie of my little mock-up for the jetpack guy, the first mock-up, and
Yes.
I don't know if is
Yeah,
it
we can
appropriate
check
to
it out.
show this.
Yeah.
So if you show the one with the little GI Joe dude,
Okay.
There it is.
Oh my. Where'd it go?
are you guys seeing it move around? Because I'm not
Yeah,
seeing it.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
sorry.
seeing
Yes,
it on
we are
the
watching
stream.
it now.
Okay.
So we've got
Yeah, so that's just a mock-up, and honestly, the trajectory, that trajectory of flight was more elegant than what I ended up with, but it took up so much room on the back of the playfield, and I was struggling to create a compelling play mechanic. So I thought this is going to be an interesting effect, but it's not that impactful to play. So I think that I have to do something else. So that's when I decided that he needed to pick up the ball. So when you see the final iterations of the game, you're not seeing it now, but like right now, it starts the feature that's in there that uses the jetpack starts a multi-ball. You go into the Thunderball buck, and that starts. So my lights just went out again. Hang on a second.
it's okay. Take care of those lights. This is actually very special.
We're enjoying watching this
Yeah.
mech in action.
Get to see some behind the scenes in George's office here.
Yeah. So when I decided, I had a bunch of different play scenarios in mind. Like, he was going to go to a place and you're going to shoot the ball over there, and then it was going to be worth something if you got him there and all this. But when you see right now, what's in the game is he goes and picks up the ball. You go into the Thunderball buck, which lights the 3 orange lights on the left orbit. 2 shots will go through and return to the flipper. On the 3rd shot, you're locking that ball, and he's going to go get the ball. And he picks up the ball, and then he's going to hover over that roll under switch in the center of the playfield. Essentially, it's for all intents and purposes, it's a hurry up. The value's counting down. The sooner you hit that switch and drop the ball and start the multi-ball, the 2-ball multi-ball, the better your score. So now eventually you'll be able to fly him around, and you'll be able to drop the ball in different places, and and where you drop the ball is going to have something to do with how you score and what it means. And so there's more jetpack stuff coming than what's in the game right now. You'll see. You also, I don't know if you have a movie, sort of a further down the development cycle movie. That was with the same mechanism, the same mock-up. Only this time it's got the guy in the tuxedo, right? It's got Bond in the tuxedo.
Not the
Yep.
G.I. Joe. Yep.
Yeah.
He flies so high.
Yeah, and that was the challenge. The challenge is, he's in the back of the game, and he's gonna end up like, okay, I got to work ramps around this. I got to work the rocket around this. How am I gonna make this all happen? So I started, as elegant as that was, right? The arc of his flight, and the fact that when you change directions, the inertia of the mechanism like naturally animated him. That's all really cool stuff, but it's got to be impactful to play.
Mm-hmm.
And so impactful to play means you got to be able to do something with the ball and the guy. So I think it's funny, we sent the sculpts to licensor for approval, and the first comments that came back were that his eyebrows were too bushy. And so
I'm showing the bushy eyebrows right now too.
yeah, and so
I think they're perfect.
Well, they weren't wrong. It's just that our iPhones are so good, right? Our phones today the cameras on our phones are so good that, the guy's head is like 1/8 of an inch high. So, you guys have an image there of him with the pinball,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Like for scale, so you think about this and you go, wow, but we toned them down some. So I think the production ones are nicer. But I think.
Did you have to do a lot of stress tests on the jet?
Yeah, I mean, the other issue with the initial mock-up of the Flying Dude was that while that wire, that piece of wire that I used to suspend him was fine for that effect. The minute now you got to support a magnet and a pinball, and all of a sudden it's like, so I simplified it quite a bit. We talked about when we were talking about who worked on the game, I didn't mention the mechanical guys, and that's really important because they did so much work on this. So the lead engineer was John Rothermel, and Elliot Eisman helped out with the jetpack. Tom Copera helped out with the DB5. John and Tom did a tremendous amount of work on the DB5. That opening roof on the DB5, I cannot tell you the amount of engineering that's in that. As simple as it seems, there was a ton of engineering related to that, and I really wanted the structure that controlled the arc of the ball to be separate from the car. I didn't want to mess with the car. I wanted the car to be, and that's, by the way, we designed that car. That car was it's licensed from Aston Martin. It was approved by Aston Martin, as a custom molded and modeled for the game. It's not a toy that was adapted. It was made for the game.
It's so pretty, and the lighting hitting the side of it just from the.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So, it's a really high detail
and then the
model
same thing,
as well.
The rocket, the dragon tank, the sculpts, all custom for the game.
Is that something you enjoy with some of your background in toy design and just a background in design? Do you like working on sculpts?
Love it. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love working on that kind of stuff. It's just a lot of fun. Some great digital. So we've got amazing digital sculptors, and we've done a lot of work to optimize the pipeline that allows us to, work to take work that we maybe generate in an art package like in an art focused package like Blender or ZBrush, and eventually get it into a solids package so that we could do the engineering. So it's pretty cool. We've done, and that's taken us many years to refine the sort of that pipeline, because it's not the same as just, yes, you can print this stuff, but it's not the same. What it takes to integrate the mechanics into some of these things, you really couldn't do effectively in some of the art packages, because you need much tighter control of clearances and tolerances and everything else.
That's interesting. I see some people are asking about licensing things. I mean, yes, I assume, but please correct that the DB5 license does not come with the James Bond package. You had to go directly to Aston Martin.
That's right. Yep. I mean, licensing is a complex thing, especially with something like this, right? So there's a James Bond license. There's the music licenses are separate, and the DB5, it's an even though some elements of it belong to the Bond brand, but elements of it belong to Aston Martin.
Yeah, interesting. Was that an interesting? Yeah,
Aston Martin has equally high standards. So Aston Martin was very concerned about how things were represented, and all of this, everything in that car had to be appropriately scaled, approved. I mean, that the car was at one point in time, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of work that went into just that.
Yeah. I can imagine.
That's awesome. Speaking of music, let's talk about it. In the chat, someone asked, are the 10 music tracks that were mentioned a month ago or so still going to make it? So basically, what music can we expect in this game?
Right. So John Barry, who did a lot of the significant Bond music, including the Bond theme, right? And he was masterful at weaving the theme music from the particular film into the Bond theme. So when you're watching Goldfinger and the Bond theme seems to blend into the Goldfinger theme, that's John Barry. And so there's a lot of that kind of stuff in the game, in addition to the 2 title tracks that we did not get because they were prohibitively expensive. It's not to say, it's like no promises, but maybe a miracle will happen and one day we'll figure this out. But the Goldfinger theme, Shirley Bassey, which I really wanted, but it was just so expensive, and publishing rights and stuff were difficult to acquire. And Tom Jones' Thunderball. But we have the From Russia with Love theme. We have You Only Live Twice, and we have Diamonds Are Forever. Another Shirley, one of those is Shirley Bassey, the other one is Nancy Sinatra, and those are in. The problem is that they're really love songs. So you'll see them in the credit roll. You'll see elements of them. But there's a bunch of John Barry stuff in there that including the Bond theme, which fits really nicely into the gameplay elements. I mean, you've seen things like the scene of Bond on the laser table. Goldfinger's going to cut him in half. It's like you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. that stuff is in, and it's it's classic. You can't do it without it. We have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of fun stuff like that. We have. Largo saying, turn on the underwater lights, and then Lonnie's going to turn on the underwater lights. But it was like, it's just funny stuff that we had fun with. He
so many great
gives me a hard time that he says I need to do all this. We need a director's cut where I do all the speech calls. Down men in the crater.
That would be great. I love one of my favorites is the introduction scene with Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd, 2 of my favorite villains in the movie. But I love they're great. There's so much in this game.
So Wint and Kidd, I'll tell you, so Wint and Kidd is very much. So Lonnie and Mike were adamant that we got to do a Wint and Kidd thing, and it's got to be they were the whole round around with the whole scorpion scene and all that stuff. I would one of my favorite things is that the Professor Dent scene with Dr. No, where he picks up the tarantula.
Yeah. And
I think that Dr. No voice coming through the speaker thing, like sit down, like it's awesome. It's eerie. It's cool. But yeah, no, there's a lot, and there's more coming. I mean, there's just, you guys have only seen, we scratched the surface, so to speak.
Yeah. That I'm very excited. I agree with Johnny Demonic. The You Only Live Twice theme is probably my favorite as well. I'm very happy that will be in the game at some point. So, gosh, I don't know. We could talk forever. I'm trying to formulate good questions, but every time you say something new, I have 10 other things I want to talk about come up in my head. The geometry of the game. I think that's one thing that you do very well. In some of your games, when you stand up and look at the geometry, it's like, how the hell is that going to work? That looks weird. And then you get up there and you play it, and you're like, wow, that's great. That thing feels great. I mean, the whole upper ramp, the right ramp assembly is there. There's so many shots there. What were some? What were some iterations, struggles?
There's an operator, Kevin Grillo is his name, and about a year ago, he reached out to me when he you guys, I don't know if you guys know Kevin, but
yeah. Atlanta
he
represent.
said to me,
My parents' basement.
he sent me a thing. He got wind that I was designing a game, and he sent me a thing. He says, "Man, I cannot wait for another 2-flipper masterpiece." You know, he's thinking about Deadpool and stuff. And I was like, right then and there, I said probably ought to do 3 flippers.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah. So I think that there were a couple of things. Like, so I did my first pinball machine, my first pinball design, I should say. When I went to work to design pinball machines at Williams, I had already designed lots of things in my life. I had designed video games, I designed toys, I designed novelty games. But my first pinball design was a 3-flipper game, Corvette. And I had 2 very similar shots. I had that upper loop, and I had that would also connect to a ramp that returned the ball to the right flipper. So I wanted to reprise that. The geometry is different, by the way. If you took the 2 playfields and overlaid them, you'd see that it's different. But I don't know. You know, one of my favorite things that I played with a long time, and I feel like I really like the way it is like the Spectre targets. So the Spectre targets are significant around the rocket. They not only every one of those things, every time you collect a Spectre letter, it advances the value of the jackpot when you do get that multi-ball. Mm-hmm. So it's in your best interest to build those up. They also light the Goldfinger target, which is your path to Spectre weapons.
Okay.
So, but those targets, if you notice, one of them is facing away from you up playfield, and 2 of them are behind the rocket. Mm-hmm. And so the magic is you got to rattle around in there. You know, you got to glance up the rocket. You got to come into one entrance. You can come in from both sides if you have the drop targets down. And I found that really challenging, but yet doable. So I worked that, and I always, you know, we have the spell out on the back panel associated to those targets, so you can see when you've lit one. And so I think that dynamic of the rocket moving, the ball rattling around in there, sometimes it whips around. It's like a super fast shot, whips around, and it feels kind of cool. And so I thought that, I'm just, you know, I try stuff, right? I thought, you know, here I have a buck firing up playfield at the tank, or sometimes goes into pop bumpers. Yep. And so I've never done that before, so I don't think I've seen anybody else do it, so I'm going to do it. You know?
Well, and then the action you get out of those 2 pop bumpers is fantastic too. For only 2 pop bumpers, it's really fun.
2 pop bumpers and 2 pop bumpers tied together.
Yeah, so, even on the premium when they're tied. Yeah, that's fantastic. You know what? People have been asking about that too, and I don't think a lot of people understand the engineering of why those pop bumpers need to be linked together. Can you explain?
Yeah, absolutely. So most games are done with 2 node boards, and you know the really cool thing about Spike is Spike 2 is that, you know, it's a modular system. So you if you really had to, you can grow, and you've seen us do it, right? Like, for example, the QR reader is a node. And when we do a topper, sometimes you get a 3rd node board that's associated to the topper, and depending on what it's driving. So, but one of the things that a designer does is he sits down and tries to assign resources, switches, lamps, motor drives, coils, to the support electronics hardware in the game. And from a cost standpoint, we try to build games with 2 nodes. Usually there's a node down by the flippers, typically node 8, and then there's a playfield node up towards the back of the playfield, handles that geography up there, node 9. So when you start adding devices to games, you make decisions about what you're going to prioritize. And honestly, I like, everybody says, I don't like the 2 pop bumpers tied together. I was like, well, not because of the action you don't, because honestly, prove to me that the action is different, because it's not. And at this game, people like are telling me, man, the ball's in the pop bumpers forever. And so I was like, yeah, I know, 2 pop bumpers, 1 stretched rubber, pop bumpers are tied together. It's probably one of the most effective pop bumper arrays I've ever designed. And yet, I'm doing it with less resources. So at the end of the day, if the pop bumpers are a randomizer, and a randomizer that you can manipulate by how you move the machine, then, and I gave you all the action, what do you care that they're tied together? Honestly. And so for me, it's like, it's a non-issue. It's like, yeah, I don't, I'm not going to put another node in the game or take another device out of the game in order to give you two independently controlled pop bumpers, because prove to me that these work worse than if you independently control them, and they don't. So,
yep, prove them wrong. You won't be able to. Good luck.
We dare you.
I think that's a great explanation. That's fantastic.
I mean, it's like, you think about it and you go, okay, I had originally, not only did I had the rocket, right? Here's the rocket, by the way. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this?
Oh, yeah, put it in front of you. Yeah, there you go.
So here's the rocket assembly.
Nice.
And you can see, I said this is a production rocket assembly. It's got, a couple of opto pairs looking across, so that no matter, how it moves, it makes, right? Originally I had a coil kicker tied to the rocket, so that not only could the rocket move when you shot it with the ball, but it could also move when I fired the kicker. And again, I was like, wow, I got an entire coil assembly just doing that. And do I need it? Am I getting anything from it that, and I decided, no, I'm not. So take it out. And so when you look at, I did the game with two node boards, whether it's a premium or an LE, or a pro, it's got two node boards in it. And, you say to yourself, okay, well, what would you like me to trade for independently controlled pop bumpers? Do you want me to take the DB5 VUC out? You want me to, would you, do you want me to lose a flipper? You want me to, what would you like me to take out? So that's really the calculus a designer makes. Like, what's important and what's more important, and what am I going to keep? I still have to make the game cost a certain amount. I still have to be, it's got to work. It's got to do all the things it's got to do. And so every time somebody sits down to design a pinball machine, they're working with these parameters, and they're trying to design to the parameters.
I challenge anybody who's just slightly interested in the mechanics and engineering to go to one of your Spike pinball games. You have 18 drivers. Go find them all, right? In the lower third of the pinball game, you have six solenoid drives taken up just by the essential things you need to run the game. Two flippers.
Right, you need a trough. You need a trough. You need flippers. You need slingshots, right?
Yeah, so then you have 12 more to work with, and that's the magic, that you have to work with.
You got an auto launcher. You got, it's like, yeah.
So it's
question from the chat: was there ever consideration to keep the rocket static, or like why did you want to make it?
No, the rocket moved from day one. The rocket moved from day one because it's cool action. It feels good to shoot it. And it wiggles around. I mean, did you have those early rocket movies?
Yeah, I'll play them right now.
Yeah.
You're hitting the
those are early rocket movies. Another mechanical engineer that helped out, Harrison Drake, helped me out with. I mocked up that rocket and picked out a couple of grommets that it moves on. And my original concept, I had coming out of the bottom of the rocket here, I wanted it be I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So coming out of here, I wanted the pin from a pop bumper with a spoon switch, right? Mm-hmm. I thought that action, moving this rotating with the rocket was going to, it could work just like a pop bumper switch, and that's what I was pushing those guys at. And Harrison said to me, Harrison and Tom started talking about it, and they said, no. He says, we can make this way more reliable with a couple of optos, and I think we can make it more tunable for you. And so that's what they did. And so those two movies that you're about to show are when Harrison first got, took my crude thing and took it to the next level, got it working, and he got, he sent me those movies, and so we were laughing because we were like, wow, that's cool. That's kind of, I was impressed that the optos worked as well as they did, because I really thought, so yeah, that mechanical engineering team helped out in a bunch of different ways. I think Harrison was in between things or something, and so he jumped in and did that. Same thing with Elliot with the jetpack.
You really had the dream team. You had Tom,
I had everybody.
Harrison,
I had,
and Elliot.
Rob helped me out with some stuff on the gantry buck, and I did. I mean, I think I've said this before. So I like to sketch. I do all this stuff, and I mock these things up in plastic and get them sort of working. But then I go into CAD and I give them really tight SolidWorks CAD, because it gives me I think that it helps me retain control of the things that I want to do that. So and I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy all that level of noodly detail and having control of it. And I think they appreciate that I'm not just throwing stuff over the fence. I think that, I think the tighter my stuff is, the easier their job is.
Absolutely. Lead from the front, not from behind. Personally, my favorite shot on this game is absolutely the left orbit, the world's longest ramp shot. It combines everything I like: long ball travel and then a really awesome ramp. What was the inspiration for that? Was it trying to eliminate an orbit or add the place for the jetpack to pick up?
I was trying to do something. I was just trying to do something different. By the way, it's not. I've used that orbit with a ramp before. I did it on NBA Fast Break.
Yep. That's probably why I love that game.
I did it on my Avengers game.
Mm-hmm.
From the 2011, 2012, whatever that, in that time period. I had the Hawkeye ramp. You remember the Hawkeye ramp? And the Hawkeye ramp basically was a very similar shot, except that the difference is that I think the Hawkeye ramp had a diverter, so it wasn't always going to come across the, But so I was the single biggest thing that, like, the ramp architecture was very driven by that right ramp, that combination ramp, the villain henchman ramp.
Mm-hmm.
And that ramp was, the funniest thing about that ramp is that Gary Stern's always walking around here going, when you guys create a feature that is only accessible to advanced players, you've essentially spent a bunch of money that most of the audience is never going to see. So he has a real hard he struggles to make upper flipper shots. So for a long time, I called that the Gary ramp, because I said, hey, Gary, you can make this ramp from the bottom two flippers, and I know you're never going to make it from the upper flipper, but somebody else will. So
that's funny.
Oh, I love the Gary ramp.
but I think that ramp sort of, I did that ramp first, and I had that ramp all detailed and in the game, and then I added the other stuff. I'm on with the Marco folks. Speaking of Gary, that was Gary.
Hi, Gary.
His ears were burning.
He heard his ramp was being spoken about, so he needed to come see what was going on.
His ears must have been burning.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I forgot about that long shot on NBA Fast Break, so shame on me. I will have to be honest, I have not seen the original Avengers in a long time. If anyone in South Carolina or Georgia has one, let me come play it. So that ramp came first. I mean, it is kind of one of the most prominent pieces a non-toy on the playfield.
Right. So it came first, knowing that I was going to do a 3-flipper game. Right. So
yep.
It's like, I knew I had to have a flipper that worked with that ramp. So I knew there was a flipper on the left side somewhere, and then the ramp. And the one thing I shot in the game that's deceiving is that orbit is pretty clean. That right that shot in between the two ramp legs.
Yes.
That is an outer orbit, which feeds the left flipper. And when the control gate is open, and that's actually very repeatable. I've actually hit that 4 times in a row, believe it or not. Now I'll never do that again.
Never say never.
but it is repeatable. And one of the things I'm really happy about the flow of the game is that there are a ton of combinations, and you always feel like a hero when you make them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that was when my idea of this geometry is very bizarre to me, to then hitting, just hitting a really sweet combination of shots, including that upper flipper. It was just fantastic. The upper flipper is a bit tricky. It's going to take most of you guys, well, maybe players that are on my skill level, which is not that great, a minute to kind of adjust yourself.
I'll tell you that it frustrated me for a long time, and then the more I played it, the more accessible it became. So I think that, look, all games have to have both easy stuff and hard stuff. Mm-hmm. And if I give you a game where every shot is a gimme, I guarantee you that you'll be tired of it. Guarantee it.
Absolutely.
So I think that, I think part of it is this is it's a pretty fast play field. But I think it's doable. And I think that we one of the things that we're doing right now is we're spending a lot of time as we put completed features in the game, we rebalance. And so we rebalance stuff all the time, meaning that, when something's too hard, you got to bring it in closer. When something's too easy, you got to push it out a little bit. So we are constantly working that sort of calculus of features and to get to a place. And so a lot of times I listen for a long time. I would, and I don't consider myself a very good player. I think that I'm very average. But I'm also very lucky that I've got so many great players in the studio that I can call those guys in and I can say, what do you think about this? And I can get their feedback on things, and it'll help me tune things. So yeah, I think you'll be happy with it when we're done.
I think most people I've seen, and me included, are happy with it the way it is now, and we just have a lot to look forward to.
Oh man, this whole afternoon getting ready, Kyle was just playing game after game after game while we were setting up at the studio. It was like, yes.
It hits a special spot for me as well. When I was a kid, I had a neighbor whose father was British, and when we wanted to watch something on TV, he'd sit down and we'd just watch James Bond movies. So it's nostalgic for me as well, even though I'm disconnected from the time that they came out.
I got one more thing to show you here. I got more show and tell.
Yay, we love George's show.
So I don't know if you can see. I don't know.
Oh,
this one's going to be a little tougher.
Yeah. Okay, that looks like a back panel.
Yeah. So this is like the back panel.
Whoa.
I don't know how to show you this.
There he is.
Well, you can kind of see it, yeah.
The motor. There's James Bond on the jetpack on the other side.
Yeah.
I know. I'd ask you to turn off your green screen, but I'm scared
let me
of
see
the
if I can point stuff out, right? So here's the gear motor, right? And that's got a shaft, and right here is a toothed drive belt. You see us do this a lot. And on the feedback end, or the driven end, I should say, this is the pivot shaft. Whoops, I'm trying to keep this on camera. The pivot shaft for the arm, right? At the bottom of that, you can't see it because it's black, but there's a chopper wheel optical encoder right here, and then right below that you have a steel disc that has a couple of holes. Those holes represent, you see them?
Yeah, I can see those. Yeah,
okay, so there are optos that look at that, and actually it's right here. That opto, those are home and away switches, and there's a really cool calibration routine that's built into the games. So if you're ever having issues with your guy, you just basically you go into the menus, you run the calibration routine, and the thing self-calibrates.
So it uses
basically what happens is it goes it looks for home. It finds home. It says I'm home. Then it moves away from that. It goes through through its entire arc, and it says, okay, this is essentially the trajectory of my movement. These are my extremes, and then it goes. It knows where to go to pick up the ball, and knows where to go to, like when you're trying to do other things and like future things, like I said, you'll be able to bomb the tank, right? Everybody says, how do I get to the target on the hood of the tank? Yeah, well, the only way you're going to get to the target on the hood of the tank is to drop the ball on it with the jetpack.
So it doesn't use a stepper motor. It uses just a DC motor that has a home and a finish switch, and then it uses that opto disc to know how many degrees it's been since start and finish. Correct? Is that a layman's way?
The opto disc. So the chopper wheel, we call it a chopper wheel. Basically, he can tell direction based on how he sees, where he sees it moving, right? And so I think that it's pretty simple. It's not unlike we've done stuff like this before, but I just wanted to show you guys that so that
it's super cool. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and when we get the premium too, usually when we do the premium shows, we really dive deep into the mechs and stuff with the engineers. There's so many amazing.
Yeah, we can do that.
Even just on the pro alone, that it would be really cool.
If you look at, like, if you were to take we can do that. We can absolutely do that.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll get George on again.
If I was more prepared, I would share some of the CAD with you, so that
we'll do that for the premium episode. So you have a month or so to prepare.
Yeah. So I have it. It's just a matter of figuring out what's the best way to show it to the audience. Maybe it's just a share screen.
We do with Elliot and Harrison. We've done like screen shares, and Tom. Screen shares, and it's worked out pretty well.
That's what we'll do. Awesome. We'll just do that.
It's so cool seeing the CAD images and stuff.
Yeah,
that 3D space.
Thinking about it, it's actually neat to have this here. I know the first time we spoke with George at the Insider Connected launch, he was like, "Oh, here's a secret. There's going to be a George Gomez game in 2022." And then we were talking to George and Taylor, and he was like, "Hey, look at this." And flashed the divers briefly, and then there was a whole conspiracy theory on the internet based on that blurry green screen image of two divers with knives. And now it's gone full circle.
That's right. I teased it. Yeah. I forgot that.
You teased it twice on the show, and now we're here talking about it. So thank you.
So
again.
Here, look at this. These are so cool. Right?
Oh, that is so rad.
Oh, look at his outfit. It's great.
And then here's our Spectre. Where's our Spectre friend? Here's our Spectre friend.
Oh yeah. That's the guy.
Right.
And it's so neat that those are custom made, right? That those aren't off the shelf toys. So those are things that George and his team put together.
Yep. And then of course here's Mr. Jetpack Guy.
Yeah.
Oh man, I want one of those for a Christmas ornament. What's the part number for that guy?
I think there's a kit. There's a kit available in the store, and I think you'll be able to. I think it's called a service kit, and I think that you can buy that whole array and put it in your Pro. How's that?
Very cool.
Yay!
When I get my Pro one
or
day.
on your Christmas tree, Kyle.
Yes.
I'll start saving.
Or
putting
keep
my
it on your
Pros
tree
away.
until you get your Pro.
That's really cool.
A lot of questions in the chat regarding this. Asking when is the 60th anniversary game going to be revealed?
I keep saying very soon, and it is very soon. You'll see it in December. You'll probably see it. I'm gonna guess you're gonna see it mid-December. And I think that a different set of licensing challenges, but also licensing challenges, meaning there's a lot of stuff in that game that now you're talking about 60 years of James Bond, so you're talking about 6 Bonds in that game, 6 Bonds, six major villains, and yes, Jaws is one of them. and let's see, what else? It's got DB5s. It's got underwater lotuses. It's got
A 7 series with missile launchers in the front grille.
Yeah, it's got cool stuff from each of the bonds. How's that? And it's got, here's the coolest thing, right? You're not, the photographs and the video images and stuff, they do not do justice to the reels in the back box. Old school reels, only unlike you've ever seen them, because the engineering team did such an amazing job of illuminating them. They're illuminated with LEDs, and they look unlike any reels you've ever seen. They look amazing, and they work great. The drive software, the way those guys have worked the sounds. I mean, it's just awesome. Yeah. And on top of that, the thing ships with like 3 sound packages, so you can choose 80s Stern, or you can choose something else. And then of course it's got a screen. It's just that it's not as screen heavy or focused as my game is. And it's the small screen from the home editions. It's on the playfield.
Okay.
Oh.
And
Wow.
that screen.
It's got a lot of stuff. It's got tons of pinball stuff, right? He's got some cool shots you've never seen before, which is pretty awesome. He's got this figure 8 loop, or I don't know what you call it, figure 8 shot that returns to the flipper and allows you to continue the shot. He's got a ton of drop targets in it. It's very
perfect.
And it's a fresh playfield. It's absolutely from scratch playfield. There's no, not like when I did Beatles, I took a Sea Witch and I fixed it. I basically fixed a lot of things, improved some of the upper playfield stuff to be accessible from the bottom. But I started out with a Sea Witch. Even though I moved everything, I still started out with a Sea Witch. Mm-hmm. And in his game, he started out from scratch, and that's pretty cool. I'll tell you that it's it's just really a fun game to shoot.
Yeah, I've heard that from everyone who has played the game, that it is something special.
That's so exciting. And only 500 of them are being made? Is that...
I think so. I think there's only 500 of them. I think they're going to be expensive. I think that's just, because you got 500 games and it's limited, and, but I think that it comes with a lot of stuff, and it is a pretty, it's a pretty awesome game. I think that the other cool thing about the cabinet art has all 25 films represented in movie posters. So there's 12 on one side, 13 on the other.
Oh my God.
And the back glass has got action scenes from 6 of the Bonds from their movie posters. And let's see, what else can I tell you? Inline drops, regular drops,
really?
Bumpers, Spinner City.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's got a toy that we both had at one point in the center, a special Bond-themed spinner that originally was also in the center of my my Spectre weapons. But in my game, it was ruining a lot of my shots, so I took it out. But he's got it, and it doesn't hurt his game. As a matter of fact, it helps his game. So yeah,
amazing. Well, now I'm really looking forward to playing it. Now that I know it has inline drop targets, which are the superior form of drop target.
It's got some cool locks. It's got it's an awesome game.
That's cool. Fantastic. Well, good. Look at that. We got another teaser now. Hopefully there will be some very benevolent James Bond connoisseur who will allow some people to play. I'm sure
I'll tell you what else. There's insider connected features that cross over from his game to my game, and my game to his game.
Wow. Oh, how cool.
Yeah, what other type of insider connected features can we expect with the Bond? I imagine you are doing some sort of milestones and special backgrounds.
Yeah, I'm doing I'm going to do there's a thing we're still working on, but there's going to be some secret missions that, you know, no one's going to tell you about. You're just going to discover them, and that they, you know, they have multiple stages, if you will, and you know they interact with IC, and
Nice.
yeah, so some cool stuff coming.
Very cool. How exciting. Well, shucks. Will that game? Well, someone asked why are only 500 being made. I'm assuming that is just because it is supposed to be a very, very limited.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be very special, you know, and I think that you know, it's one of those things that you know, you don't know when you're doing a limited edition. You're always sort of guessing, you know, what's the right number, and you know, sales and marketing guys, they poll the market, they talk to people, and then they arrive at a number.
Yeah.
And we do that with everything, really. But so yeah, I can tell you that part of it is the exclusivity, and some of it is, you know, what will the market will the market bear?
Neil, we're talking about the 60th anniversary, a very special James Bond game, which maybe we'll see in a few months, George says. So exciting. All right. I mean, should we open this up for people to ask more questions to George? Do you have any written down, or?
Yeah. We have been kind of asking them, but there's a few we haven't. One question we had earlier was, this was from Paris Pinball Addict. Oh, how would you rate this game amongst all of your pinball machines you've designed?
Impossible to say. You know,
is it always like the next one you make the best one you've ever made?
Yeah, that's like, I mean, I don't, you know, I don't. They're different, right? It's like saying it's like
choosing your favorite.
It's like asking a musician. You know, it's like asking a musician to sort of pick his favorite, you know, the favorite thing that he's ever written, or you know, I think it's really hard. I can tell you that I have favorites, but sometimes it takes me years to determine that this is one of my favorites. And so it's because, you know, you play games over a long period of time, and you go back to them, and it's the ones that I return to that I think are the best, right? Like, so, you know, I still really like my Deadpool. You know, I still really like my Monster Bash, you know, and so it's just games that I return to, right? But every, you know, it's really hard to say. And, you know, where does this rank? I have no idea. You guys will tell me. You guys will tell me where it ranks, because I
don't want to pick either.
You know, I don't know. So I can tell you. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you that I'm proud of it. I like that I think it's one of my harder play fields, but I also think that I'm happy with the way it shoots, and I think it's just fun. I mean, I think the rocket interactions are fun. I think a lot of the little stuff is, you know, will just make you smile, and you know, I think all of those ingredients are what create, you know, a fun game.
Yeah, I like the interaction with the rockets a lot in that cage, because there are so many targets you cannot shoot for, right? You need to rely on that interaction between the rocket and physics to hit some of those Spectre targets.
Yeah, Spectre. I mean, so I really like that feature. I have found myself just playing the game to spell Spectre. like
That's fun.
I just want to. All right, I'm not going to get the multi-ball. I just want to focus on getting Spectre.
Do you have a favorite mode? Is another question in this game.
That's tough.
I know all the favorite questions are tough, but everyone just wants to know.
That's hard to say. I think that there's a point in time when we the multi-balls are fun because there's so many, they can be enhanced with combinations and things like that. There's a really cool multiplier feature. You can basically decide when to use it. You use the action button to execute it. But so it's fun to build up the multiplier and hold it to when you need it.
Yeah, good risk reward. I like
cool.
that.
Yeah. So I think stuff like that is really kind of makes the game fun, a lot of fun. I love there's features that I just love them because the film clips are, kind of cool, so they're fun. It's fun to play it and watch the way it works is we have, you make a shot, we give you a scene, then it goes into a loop that we've created until you make the next shot. So basically all the payoffs, you see the entire scene evolve, and the scene is chopped up such that that when you make a shot, you get the payoff.
Yeah, that's fun. It is. I kind of like how the a lot of the shots are. I kind of like the. I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Like linear, not like a linear progression, but like linear advancement. As you think of an old game where you shoot this 1, 2, 3, and now it's worth more, or something like that. Yeah. And I kind of like. I like the way that how to start modes like that. It's easy. I think it's easy for a new player to kind of understand what they need to do to start those modes.
When we were talking about what would you give up, notice that lock post down by the right flipper, right? That's intended to help us stage mode starts. Yep. And so one of the discussions right away was, do you want to lose that to get, do you want to trade that for a pop bumper?
No.
It helps.
Right.
It helps you enjoy the part of the film, and I think that's really important in a game that's based around a series of films, right? To enjoy the video clips.
I think Lonnie was pretty adamant that he wasn't a fan of stuff that starts on the fly, because it really takes away from your ability to present something to the player.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
With the video assets, this was a question brought up earlier. And licensing, did you have to do individual licensing for actors' likenesses, or is that all just encapsulated in
this particular case? We did not, but there are many.
There's so many.
There are many usage rules. So how you use things is very, very controlled.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, I could not show, like, I couldn't take a piece of film from another part of Bond and introduce it into a scene, even as a loop. I couldn't do that.
Huh. There's a few questions people are. Oh, sorry. Continue, please.
No, that was it. So there were a lot of usage. There were a lot of usage, usage rights. Some actor issues, but not insurmountable.
So I guess would it be wrong to surmise that the licensor, they own the rights and they're able to say yes and no to all things regarding each film, or is it the entire franchise, or is it like one super conglomerate?
Yeah, it's everything. It's not just they have control of all of it. So they basically you have to use it in, and the rules aren't special for pinball. These are the rules that they apply to every product. Doesn't matter what it is. So
got it.
For sure. And then a sort of general question that we've been getting a lot in the chat is regarding around the cornerstones. Does Stern ever expect to go back to the 3 cornerstones? And if so, will there be a delay in that since y'all are moving to a much bigger and nicer facility too?
I mean, so look, the cornerstone thing right now we still have a lot of back orders. So the reason to do 2 cornerstones is so that we can fill some of those orders.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like, will we go back to 3? Yeah, maybe when we get through the backlog of stuff. But I mean, a lot of you guys are still waiting for games, and we have a lot of capacity, and we have a lot of, we're very good about being, we can run multiple titles simultaneously. So, I see a lot of drama on the internet about, they're running this, so they're not running that. And it was like, well, that a lot of times people are just wrong. They're like, Guardians of the Galaxy and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles just 2 weeks ago ran down the line together. So I think that we have that ability, and you'll see that, but you'll see us. So will we go back to 3? Probably at some point. Right now we're 2 for the near future. So I'll tell you that we moved to this building. We moved from the old facility to a much big, this facility was a substantially larger than the previous one we were in. Moving a manufacturing plant is not a simple thing to do, but we're very good at it. So we moved. I think we started. We started the move on I don't know. I forget what it was. It was like a Thursday or something, and by the end of the next week, we were shipping games. So I mean, this is like we plan it.
Wow.
One of the guys, everybody knows Ray Tanzer, just got inducted into the Pinball Hall of Fame at Expo. Ray is I think you guys know, Ray is the Vice President of Special Projects for Stern, and Ray's entire mission in life right now is, he is so focused on that move, the transition, all the bits and pieces, all the things that we got to do, all the approvals and coordinating, coordinating contractors. And I mean, it's just a massive job, but there's a senior guy in the organization, an executive level guy who he owns that, and that's his thing. And if I know Ray, this one's going to be like the last one. He'll have the whole thing planned out, and we get access to the facility before the day we move, and it's not exactly like moving your house. We got to set up assembly lines, got to get tooling in, got to get all of the elements that are required.
Thousands and thousands of parts need to stay organized as they move and then able to be used, right?
Yeah, you do. I mean, you do.
Amazing.
It's a massive operation. But there's a guy, just like everything else in our business, somebody owns it. He's responsible. Right. He's going to do whatever it takes. He's got resources beyond him. It's not, he doesn't work it alone, but he is the guy that owns
he's the lead.
Right?
Yeah.
You mean Ray's not going to do it all himself with one pickup truck and like a dolly?
He's lifting like every phone.
No, there is a.
Putting it in a van.
I think it's available online, but the Gary gave a great story. Gary did all the talking to induct Ray into the Pinball, the Expo Hall of Fame. And it was fantastic listening to the way Gary had so many funny quips and the story of moving the facility last time. Just being amazed at how
you can
quickly.
watch it on YouTube on Pinball News' channel.
Yeah, check that out. It was really great. And the stories are fantastic.
Well, Ray, I mean, look, Ray, Ray's a talent. He's designed games, he's engineered games. He ran when I first got involved with Stern Pinball as a consultant way back in the early 2000s. Ray was sort of in my seat, and Ray is the guy that reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to do stuff, as a consultant for Stern. And Ray was running the engineering group at the time. And so Ray's a talent. He's been around. He knows exactly what he's doing.
That's great.
Cool fella, too. He's a really nice guy. A lot of people have a lot of nice things to say. A lot of people are talking about their LEs, and they're excited to get them. A lot of people missed when you were talking about more content and audio visual being introduced to the game. There are top men working on it. They're working very hard on it right now, even.
Yeah, I mean, you won't have to wait long. We have a lot of stuff that basically we just have to. It's the process of preparing content for submission for approvals is tedious, and it's on us. And so it's not just a matter of putting stuff in the game. It's a matter of creating an adequate presentation that explains things to the licensor in such a way that he can say, okay, yeah, I understand, I'll sign off on that. So it's a tedious process, and we're on it, and we're going to do it. I can tell you that, like I said, I got here at 6 a.m. This morning, and I started working on those LEs out there to look them over. Those LEs look amazing, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. They really do. I am very happy with the way they came out. So
it's exciting. Is that a special time in the development of the game? Once the first batch of pros are out and you finally get to see your LEs on the line, does that bring joy still?
They're all special, right? The pros, when I had pros and premiums getting ready to go to shows about a month back. Leading up to Expo, there was a bunch of pros and premiums out there, and they're all sort of special. I mean, it's like I won't rest for a little while till it's all buttoned up and done, and we're not chasing any more details. But it is satisfying to see this stuff going out. I'm really fortunate that my entire career as a designer, with the exception of a very brief time when I was a toy inventor, and I didn't really get to see my stuff being manufactured, but my stuff was manufactured. And so I'm very fortunate that I've always seen the work I've designed get mass produced and go out to people, and people play with it, and that's a really huge satisfying part to my job. I think I would be very frustrated if I was a guy at a consulting firm and never saw my stuff getting made, or my stuff never got beyond that point. I would not be happy.
Yeah,
that's great.
We're so grateful for it.
We have Jason Knapp asks, there's been
Jason.
talk and rumors about another Stern Vault game. Is there any confirmations or denials on that?
You can't talk about that.
I haven't heard them, so I'm not sure. I haven't heard them, so I'm not entirely sure which.
All right.
Well, I mean, our vaults are a thing. We do vaults. We're always looking at like what have we done in the past a while back that's been out of production, maybe licensing's expired, et cetera, that there's demand for, or that people really cherish or whatever. And
how do we create a demand for y'all to see? Because we all have our own vault wish list.
Yeah.
How do we get
I think the sales guys, the sales and marketing team polls their customers. Their customers aren't necessarily the end customers, or the people that sell products to you guys. And so the dealers and distributors, so they talk to them, they watch, the other thing they do is they watch what are used versions of games going for. So a game that, for example,
for sure,
you see a game that we haven't made for a while, but it's trading for big money. It's trading for more money than what it sold for originally. That means there's demand for that game. That means there's some shortage of those games. And so we might pay attention and say, okay, what will it cost to renew this license? What would we do with it? how would we do it, and then it's just a matter of, so we're looking at, here's something you guys don't realize, right? Product plans for are several years and being made several years in advance. So today we're talking about stuff internally. We're talking about stuff we're going to make 2.5 years from now in terms of licensing and the product mix for a year, right? So what does the product mix for 2025 look like? Okay, we got is there a music game and an action game and a movie game? Is there what's the mix, and what are those licensing relationships, and when's that stuff all happening? So Vault, probably, I don't know exactly. I wish I knew what the rumor is. What the Vault rumor is.
From what I've seen on the internet, people are convinced that it's going to be Tron. I think that is a very complicated licensing mess, and the fact that it's a couple systems old now.
That's what they want.
I think that's what the people want.
Orbiter 1 Vault.
So Tron gets talked about all the time, right? Tron gets talked about all the time for obvious reasons. There's demand for the game. Yeah, I mean,
Lord of the Rings is selling for buku money right now.
Yeah,
Lord of the Rings.
I'll put my money down on that.
I hear Lord of the Rings. I hear Tron. Yep.
Wheel of Fortune.
Some licenses are harder to do than others.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you. Let me throw another curveball at you. Hardware, electronics hardware for a Lord of the Rings. The engineering effort to take a Lord of the Rings and port it from White Star to Spike 2 is a substantial effort. And so you have to look at, when is a vault not worth doing? Well, when
so you should just design a whole new Lord of the Rings. So, I
don't know about that.
He's like, I'm done.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving cogs in these sorts of projects, some more complicated than others. I like that question there. Someone asked, they say they see your name in the credits on some version of Golden Tee that they have. What, do you remember being credited doing anything with IT and Golden Tee?
Well, I worked at IT for about 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And it could be, on Golden Tee, it might be related to just sort of like they credit everyone in the company or something at that time. But I did work on some novelties that I actually did design work for way back when, that were programmed at Incredible Technologies. A game called Slick Shot, by Grant Products. Game called Dinobop, a redemption game. Little dinosaur eggs, and you throw a ball and break the dinosaur eggs, collect the dinosaurs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Also, I don't know if anybody remembers the old BattleTech centers, but that I did a bunch of design work for those things.
Really?
No.
Okay,
really?
So we spent Emoto and I spent a lot of time doing BattleTech.
We played so much BattleTech at Houston Arcade Expo, and I remember when it came out at Dave & Buster's in the early 2000s, and
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So what did you do on BattleTech?
So remember, it was like a dark ride experience, and you go into this, when you after you pay your money and you get in, you get taken to a briefing room and you're briefed, and then you're like, they scramble the battle mechs and you go to the battle mechs and stuff. So I did the first version of the pods, the actual
the rectangle ones.
Yeah, yeah, the modular pods that represented. The concept was that you had these giant battle mechs, and the pilots got into this capsule, and the capsule went down a rail system and got inserted into the head of the mech, and now you were like plugged in, hooked up, and ready to go. And you release the mech out into the battlesphere. So yeah, I was like, so I did a lot of the thematic stuff with the environments and the pods themselves.
That's so cool.
And IT, by the way, IT did the software. So, and I was a consultant at the time. I wasn't at IT, but.
So George, next year, Houston Arcade Expo, you should come out and we could play BattleTech together.
You'll have to be on our team because, Emoto and I are so good. We can all just win together as a team.
I've seen those videos, too. They have them archived on YouTube. The very first kind of debriefing videos and then showing the space. And
that stuff's out there. Amazing. Yeah, that stuff's out there. God, it seems like a million years ago, but yeah.
It's so neat. I was talking to the guys that keep those things running, and they just need vintage hardware. They need a lot of vintage hardware. They burn through those old video cards so fast.
Some combination of Amigas and like Amiga 1000s or something, and some custom hardware. I can't remember. It's
crazy. That's really neat. Like, we learn something new about George every time we talk with him.
I know. It's so awesome. Well, Kyle, we're taking up a lot of George's time, and it's about the end of the show.
Yes.
So I think we should let him go. Is there any last things you'd like to say, George?
No, I think the only thing I would say to you is, or say to the audience is, patience. We will absolutely finish and deliver a Bond that you'll love. I think we are. The reason it says, pending license or approval on the to this day on the disclaimers on the .7 code is because we are, and so we're working on trying to get approvals, getting new software into the games, and we will be doing drops just like we always do to try to get the games updated and get you going. And then just bear with us. Enjoy the play field right now, and there will be more interesting, cooler things than what's in there now very soon.
That's awesome. We can't wait. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're gonna stick around, Kyle, because we're gonna do some giveaways. But George, you can feel free to jump off.
Awesome. I gotta go back. I gotta go. The assembly line's just finishing up, but I'm gonna QA more games tonight. So
there you
awesome.
go.
You guys appreciate all you do for pinball.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
All right. Wow.
Okay, I need to fix my screen real quick.
I have one question I want to ask George that I need to wait till the next time he's on, but it needs to be.
I know.
I wish that I could. Maybe I'll wait. No,
I have some
I'll wait
questions
for Jack.
I want to ask George offline.
Oh, yeah. Our conversation we had before we went live, I didn't want to end it, but then the clock ticked 3, and we were talking. It was a good conversation, but I think maybe I'll give this question to Jack, because it would be better if we were all holding a drink when I asked this question, in a good way. I saw someone ask a question about the pop bumpers being tied together. Go watch. George gave a great explanation, but the long and dirty of it is they ran out of drivers. And instead of sacrificing one of the really cool devices in the premium, you tie the pop bumpers together and it makes zero difference. As someone who is lucky enough to have played a lot of time on the premium and a bit of time on the pro, you will not notice anything at all, and it's going to be amazing. So,
yeah, that's awesome. And then when we do the premium episode 2, we're going to dive into all of those mechs. And then, Kyle, I was thinking, too, we should just do a special Marco After Hours playing the game and having Mike Vinikour there.
Yeah.
I mean, perhaps. It doesn't have to be after hours, like after hours, but where we're doing a gameplay and then Vinikour is like in a bubble telling us how to
it'll be fun to have Mike on, because he's been explaining to me about all of the rules and what they're going to be putting into the game, and how it's all going to work, and it all just sounds fantastic. Yes, I want to ask George that question that I can't read that person's name, but that's a good question, so we need to save that one.
One of the trains.
No, it's
New York and
the
what?
there's a lot that is going to go into this game, and I think that Stern has proven themselves enough
Is that
times
from Inception?
that all good things end well. I mean, shucks, they went back and fixed Kiss. They went back and added things to Ghostbusters years after.
Oh yeah, totally.
I think, as George explained a few times, the not roadblock, but a difficulty multiplier in this is just how complicated all of the assets are that need to go together. I guarantee you that tomorrow Lonnie could hit compile and they could come out with all of the rules in the game. But the rules and all of that code would not be anything if it wasn't for the rest of the choreography that goes with the game. So they will get that. It will happen. And remember, like the thing I think that a lot of people in the pinball world, there's a lot of new people, and it's nice now that a lot of the people that work in the industry are very willing to talk, right? Like we just got to have George Gomez sit with us for 2 hours.
What they're working on.
There's a lot of complexities in this, you know. It's not as cut and dry easy as, again, just pushing compile and getting all the code out.
Thanks for the resub, Obi.
Hey, what's up, Obi?
Thanks for everyone who followed.
Thanks, dude.
Sorry we didn't give y'all shout outs. We didn't want to talk over George.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Drager, and DeWisp. Oh, you guys are here. It's so amazing. Everyone wants to do a giveaway, of course.
Yeah, let's give people stuff.
That's the real reason why you're here. I just posted the link if anyone wants to jump in.
I'm going to get a beverage. I'll be right
back. Kyle's going to go to the bathroom. Hopefully he mutes his mic. I'm not going to because
I'm getting a beverage.
Suspense of potentially hearing him. And as you guys add your names, I'm going to make sure there's no duplicates. Stick around. We'll do it in a few minutes here. And once we call your name, if we do, let us know in the chat. That verifies that you accepted your gift.
Okie dokie. Wasn't that such an amazing episode with George? Even just watching it again today. We shot that one the end of November last year. Just so great. Every time we speak with him, we learn something new. We learn a lot about what's going on behind the scenes at Stern. It's just great content. Next week, we are actually traveling to California Extreme and Soda City Comic Con. So we have a busy pinball show week. In the chat, if you're going to any of those two shows, let me know so we can say hi. But we are going to play the other episode where George goes over all the mechs in 007. And then Saturday, August 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, so that's 1 p.m. Eastern, we are going to do a live stream in the seminar room at California Extreme with DRI 374 on Twitch. We're going to be streaming on his channel as well as our Facebook and YouTube pages to do a collaboration with Stern and Mike Vinikour doing gameplay. Mike's going to go through all the new code changes, all the updates, what else is expected to come for this game. It's going to be a really, really awesome session that we're looking forward to just see how much progress this game has made in the past half year. Thank you, Pinbot. It was a really, really good thing. Hey, it says tune in for live giveaways. I know, but hold on, wait. Look, I'll fix it. Reruns. But let's, for everyone on Twitch, let's find someone to go raid. And then I'm going to go back to work to plan out these pinball shows. Has it made enough progress to be better? Oh my gosh, yes. come to California Extreme and play 007 with us, and you will see how amazing this game, how far it's come. No one's streaming pinball? Are we gonna have to go watch California Birds again? It's a light day for pinball. Yeah, and then everyone, I'm almost done opening my arcade. Hopefully having the soft opening by the end of this month and then planning something big for the beginning of October. Come down to Gulf Shores, Alabama and visit Captain Crazy's Paradise, my new home. Ooh, Don's going to Electric Bat. That's awesome. Don, please tell the owners of Electric Bat, Rachel, and her husband Kale, that Emoto says hello. Or really tell them Emoto says, what's up? Yeah, we do like the Birds channel. I think we're gonna have to go to the Birds channel. California Birds, anyone? That's what it was called, right? Let's find it. Burbs. With a B. So great. Alright, let's go to that. Shortly. You're gonna hide stickers? Oh yeah, Don, please send me stickers. I have a sticker wall at my arcade. I would love to slap your logo up on it, sir. For you and your super crazy podcast. Alright, California Burbs. We're gonna raid and we're gonna end the stream and we'll see y'all next Thursday. Same time, same place. Hopefully same time. We'll be setting up some trusts and you know how that goes, but yeah. Alright. Later, y'all.